In a research lab at a university in Japan, the professor sitting at his desk, deeply engrossed in his important research, oblivious to the world around him. Then, his secretary enters, repeatedly calling his name, but he doesn't notice her at all. She keeps calling him because a pharmaceutical representative has arrived for an important meeting. However, he still doesn't hear her until she gets very close to him. He apologizes to them and tells the secretary to ask them to wait in the office until he finishes what he's working on. He then picks up a picture and recalls what happened to him when he was young, when his little sister was sick with a tumor, and they couldn't treat her, and she died because of the illness. Since then, he has been in great shock and has done everything he could to find a cure for that disease. After that, he takes samples of the medicine he invented from his research, writes down the date it was manufactured, and the expiration date, and then goes to sleep after setting his alarm clock. But in the morning, the alarm rings, and he doesn't wake up. The secretary enters his office and finds him still asleep, trying to wake him. At that moment, she is shocked to find that he doesn't wake up, and thus, the professor has died. Then we move to another place, finding a maid in a mansion waking up a boy named Falma. As soon as Falma wakes up, he is very shocked and doesn't understand anything. The maid gently tells him that the lightning strike must have shocked him and asks if he remembers anything. Falma, now the professor, is startled and begins to realize he has been reincarnated into this boy's body. He looks out the window in great shock and doesn't understand anything. The maid then brings him a mirror and he looks at himself, saying, "I am Falma, right?" She replies, "Yes, you are Falma de Medicis." To which he responds, "What kind of name is that? It sounds like pharmaceutical companies' names." He feels very disappointed that all his previous life's excessive efforts have gone to waste. The maid doesn't understand what's wrong with him and asks if his memories are confused or what. He tells her, "Yes, a little, don't worry." At this moment, she introduces herself again, saying, "I am Charlotte, at your service, and you can call me Lottie like before, no problem." He replies, "Okay, Lottie," and tells her he wants to remove the bandages on his shoulder because they are very itchy. She says she will make the arrangements immediately and runs out. Falma then looks at his hand and sees the equations he was working on in his previous life, which he wipes off sadly. Later, Lottie brings a cloth to wipe Falma's body, and she is shocked to find a mark on his shoulder, saying, "This is incredible, it's the mark of the Great Lord of Medicine." He tries to explain that it's just a mark from the burn he got from the lightning strike, but she insists it's a sign of the Great Lord of Medicine's protection over him, calling him Sir Falma. She tells him that the Lord of Medicine is highly revered in this world. Falma says, "I understand," and Lottie is about to cry, saying, "You forgot about this too?" He reassures her, saying he's just a bit confused, and not to worry. He suggests they check a few things together first. She agrees and starts telling him all about his family and the world he's in. He discovers his family is a large noble family in the empire, all of them royal pharmacists. His father, Bruno, holds the title of Archduke, which surprises him. She explains that this title is given to talented nobles with exceptional skills, and it's even higher than a duke. Falma's father is also the head of the Imperial School of Pharmacy. Falma is amazed at his family's high status. She shows him family photos in the mansion, introducing him to the whole family. She tells him that his father has high hopes for him and his older brother, Pal, who is studying medicine abroad at the best college in the world, with great hopes not just in pharmacy but also in the great arts. Falma is curious about these great arts, and Lottie enthusiastically explains that they are miraculous acts, practically magic. He asks if he can use magic in this world, and Lottie is shocked, her face turning pale. She says, "You forgot this too? You were excellent at it, and the ability to use magic is proof of your nobility. You were talented in water magic. Do you remember how to use it?" He says, "Maybe." He asks what would happen if he couldn't use this magic anymore. Lottie, looking very worried, says, "I don't even want to think about that. If that happens, you might lose your noble status and be expelled from the mansion." Falma is shocked and scared, telling her he has to try to remember. He goes to his room and thinks about how to start with magic. He recalls Lottie's words that he needs to visualize the shape of water to use water magic. He then thinks about the molecular structure of water. At that moment, the mark on his shoulder glows, and he uses water magic, finding it very powerful. Falma is extremely shocked and scared, not knowing how to stop it. He runs to the window and expels all the water outside. He keeps trying to stop the water until he says, "Stop," and the water stops. Lottie, soaked in the garden below, is delighted, saying, "You remembered the magic at last," and tells him she will change her wet clothes and come to him immediately. Falma says to himself that since water appeared, he might be able to use other elements too. He finds that he can create metals like gold, sodium chloride, and sugar, able to produce all the substances he knows their concentrations of. Lottie then comes to him, very happy that he could use magic again, saying she can now reassure his father. She asks if he also forgot all his medical knowledge, warning him that his father always asks surprise questions at meals. Falma is puzzled, and Lottie takes him to the library, saying she is amazed at how he remembered all these books. She explains that it was his mother, the lady's idea, to give him special education in medicine from a young age. Falma looks at the books and says he can remember everything in them from Falma's old memories and can read everything. Then it's mealtime, and Falma enters the hall where his family is sitting. They reassure him and his mother asks if he's alright. Even his sister is worried about him, and he reassures them all. They start the meal, and it's a wonderful family atmosphere. Falma doesn't know whether to be happy about his new life or sad because he was lonely in his previous life, saying he has to get used to Falma's life now. At this moment, his father calls him and asks about the gyride ointment he applies to his arm, making Falma nervous. Falma answers that they use herbs, cat's oil, lizard eyes, and ground bat wings boiled under a full moon night and dried under the sun for 3 days, then ground with great precision. His father praises him, saying, "Excellent, well done." He tells Falma that since he's well now, he should resume his lessons with Eleanor from tomorrow, and Falma agrees. The next morning, teacher Eleanor arrives and tells Falma there's something strange about him. Nervously, he asks her what she means. She tells him that he has become calm and that his behavior has changed completely, as if he is a different person. Falma replies, "No, you're just imagining things." He tells her not to focus too much, Eleanor. She says, "Oh, that's evidence. You used to always call me Ellen. I am your father's top student and your personal tutor too." She adds, "No, really, there's something strange about you today." Falma says, "I'm sorry, my head is a bit messed up after what happened with the lightning strike." She replies, "Oh, you should have said that from the start," and asks if he still remembers how to use magic. He says, "Yes." She tells him, "Alright, today we will leave pharmacology and focus on reviewing the basics of magic." She explains that nobles have the ability to use magic, and each one has a guardian lord. For Falma, his father, and his brother, their guardian lord is the Lord of Medicine, while Eleanor's is the Lord of Water. She continues, "Originally, there are 5 elements of magic: fire, water, air, earth, and void. Each has positive and negative aspects. Do you understand so far?" Falma says, "Yes, but what is void magic?" She explains, "It is an unusual magic, part of the list, but it hasn't been seen for 300 years. No one knows if it really exists." Falma asks, "Is it magic that allows someone to create the resources they want from nothing?" She replies, "There is nothing like that. If someone could create all the materials they want, they would be a supernatural being." Falma is shocked because he actually has that ability. They go to the lake, and Eleanor says the weather is perfect for training. She is surprised and asks why he didn't bring his magic wand. He replies, "What magic wand?" She explains that the magic wand helps control magic properly. He says, "Oh, right, it was above my bed, but I forgot it. Sorry." She gives him her wand and says to use it for today's training. She tells him to direct the water flow and create a water spear, explaining how to do it. She then demonstrates and creates a water spear. Falma is amazed and thrilled by what she did. She says, "Yes, it's not a difficult technique. You used to be able to do it before you forgot. Now, you try." When Falma tries, an enormous amount of magical energy gathers around him, and he unleashes a powerful explosive water spear, so strong that Eleanor is blown away by the pressure. Falma is astonished and doesn't understand what happened. Eleanor is shocked and says, "What happened to you? How did you even use magic without the activation incantation?" Falma laughs, not knowing how to respond. Eleanor says that the amount of power a person can use in their lifetime is fixed. She prays Falma hasn't exhausted it all and rushes to her bag to get something. She pulls out another magic wand and tells him to hold it firmly from the other end. Falma asks, "What is this?" She says, "Just hold it," and he does, but the crystal breaks immediately. Eleanor is frightened and Falma asks her to explain. She says, "You've exceeded the colorless capacity, and you have both positive and negative attributes. What happened to you, Falma?" At that moment, her glasses fall, and she drops to the ground. Falma picks them up for her, but she says, "That's not important right now." Falma says, "Alright, tell me, what does exceeding the capacity mean?" She replies, "That's what I want to know. I've never seen anyone like you before." He says, "Really?" She grabs his arm, sees the mark, and says, "This is the mark of the great apothecary." She warns him never to show the gauge to anyone else, not even his father. He agrees. She concludes, "That's enough for today's lesson." As they return, Eleanor struggles to see without her glasses, and Falma offers her his arm for support, asking if she is okay and why her hand is shaking. She admits, "I'm just scared because I can't see the ground well." They rest for a bit, and Falma tells her that when she doesn't have her glasses, she can make a shape with her hand to see a little better. She laughs and asks, "What are you doing?" He tells her to try it, and she does, finding that it actually helps. She is amazed. Falma tries it too and realizes he can see the injuries on people's bodies. He holds Eleanor's injured hand, and she is astonished that he knew where the injury was. She asks how he knew. He explains that when he makes a shape with his hand over his eye, he can see that her finger is injured and twisted, with a different color than usual. He says that when he correctly identifies an illness, the color changes from blue to red. Eleanor says that the Lord of Medicine can diagnose all diseases and heal them. She exclaims, "Impossible. You have the eye of the Medicine Lord." Falma is confused, and Eleanor is frightened, not understanding what is happening. She says, "The power you have is not human," and notices that Falma doesn't have a shadow like other people. Even Falma is surprised. Eleanor screams, terrified, and falls to the ground, pleading with Falma not to hurt her and to stay away. Falma approaches her, trying to understand, and asks if she is okay. Eleanor, still frightened, runs into the forest. Later, Falma returns home, and his father asks him about Ellen. His father says Ellen mentioned she had a high fever and wouldn't be able to train him today. His father then asks, "Do you know why this happened?" Falma, recalling what transpired, says he doesn't know. His father tells Falma to take this magical potion to her at her home, and Falma agrees. Falma goes to Ellen's house and finds her sitting in the living room. Ellen enters wearing armor and asks him, "What's your purpose in visiting my home? Are you here to finish me off because you know my secret?" Falma responds, "No, nothing like that. Calm down, I don't even have a wand or anything like that." Ellen removes her helmet and asks why he's there. Falma explains that his father sent him with this potion because she said she had a fever. Ellen is surprised and asks if the master himself made it. She approaches Falma but suddenly gets scared again, falls to the ground, and asks, "Is it poisoned?" Falma says, "No, definitely not," and hands her a letter, saying, "This is from me. It's a different kind of medicine, an ointment for your injured finger." Ellen asks if that could also be poisoned, to which Falma replies, "No, definitely not, for the millionth time. I have no intention of harming you, Ellen. I want you to stay my teacher." Ellen asks, "Why? You don't need a teacher for magic or medicine. You're the reincarnation of the great lord of medicine." Falma replies, "As far as I know, I'm just a normal human." Ellen says, "If that's your wish, I will abide by it. I'll never tell anyone your secret, not even my father or family, so please don't kill me." Falma calmly says, "I don't know everything about magic, I admit that." He approaches her and says, "I need your help and knowledge." He asks her to teach him how to control his magical abilities, but says, "If you don't want to, I can't force you." He hands her flowers and says, "This is to express my gratitude for teaching me all this time." Ellen takes the flowers, and Falma says, "I won't bother you anymore, don't worry." He apologizes, takes his bag, and tells her to rest well before leaving. Later, Ellen goes to her study, looks at Falma's prescription, a powder she doesn't know if she can trust yet, then looks at the flowers. Deciding to trust Falma, she takes the medicine he gave her. The next day, Falma is in their palace garden when Ellen arrives, greeting him while wearing her armor. Falma asks if she's feeling better but notes she's still protecting herself from him. Ellen says, "No, it's just a precaution because of your great power while I help you train." Falma is happy and says, "Okay then." Ellen tells him, "I will continue teaching you." Falma thanks her. She tells him, "Why are you thanking me? If you lose control of your magic, it would be because of my poor teaching. You could destroy the entire empire." Falma laughs, "Enough exaggeration about destroying the empire." Ellen responds, "Do you think I'm joking?" She continues, "I should thank you too. The ointment and the medicine you gave me had an amazing effect." Falma says, "I'm glad I could help." Ellen adds, "Even the master's medicine doesn't work that fast." "Thank you." She says she loved the flowers too and laughs, feeling very happy. She then tells Falma, "Let's go to the deserted island to continue the training." Falma is surprised and asks, "Deserted island?" Ellen assures him, "Don't worry, it's just for safety." They go to the island, and she begins teaching him the basics of using magic. She tells him that he will be able to control his magic soon, but he needs to keep training well in the coming period. They return to the palace, where Falma sits on the stairs studying. One of the maids greets him, and using his magical eye, he diagnoses her with esophagitis. He looks at another servant and finds an eye infection. He checks another person and finds pharyngitis. Another maid has a cold, and another servant has knee joint disease. Falma starts recording all these issues in his notebook. He thinks to himself that if people in this world find out he is so supernaturally powerful, he might be arrested and executed in the worst-case scenario. At that moment, Latte enters the palace. Using his magical eye, Falma sees her hands are chapped. He goes to his lab, finds all the tools he needs, and starts making a moisturizer for Latte's hands. He's happy it works and begins making medicine for everyone in the palace based on his notes. First, he meets Latte, gives her the moisturizer, and she's thrilled, thanking him and asking if she can share it with her mother. Falma says, "Of course, I'll make one for everyone in the palace, don't worry." He says, "I've made something for everyone, let's call them." He starts distributing the medicines, and everyone is happy and grateful to Falma. Latte tells him it's the first time the servants have received medicine from the noble lords, so they're deeply affected and happy. She explains that pharmacists usually make medicine only for important people in the empire and don't examine commoners due to social class distinctions. Falma says he doesn't like the idea of class discrimination in treating diseases. Latte says even if commoners were examined, they couldn't afford the medicine because it's too expensive for them. Falma feels sad, thinking the society is structured around social classes and there are many problems with the high cost of medicines, leading to a high mortality rate among commoners. Latte tells Falma, "You never examined me before, Mr. Falma, because the master forbade it initially." Falma says, "Yes, probably because I'm still a student and it might be dangerous for people." Latte cries with joy, saying she's sure Falma will become a great pharmacist because he helps people without discriminating based on social class. The next day, Falma is having a meal with his family, but his little sister is absent. He asks about her. His father says she has chickenpox. Falma is shocked, thinking about the disease, and his father says, stay away from Blanche for at least 3 weeks to avoid getting infected. Their mother asks, you want us to leave her alone for 3 weeks? His father says he will assign a group of servants to take care of her, just as they did for Falma when he had it 4 years ago, but also warns Falma to be careful as he could get it again. Falma notices his father is also coughing and looking ill. Falma goes to his lab to think of a suitable treatment for his sister Blanche, and suddenly, the formula comes to him. He succeeds in making the medicine. He sneaks into his sister's room, bringing food and sweets along with the medicine, and asks her how she's feeling. Blanche says she feels terrible, with itchy spots everywhere. Using his magical eye, Falma diagnoses her condition accurately. His sister tells him that their father would be upset if he knew he entered her room. Falma responds, that's why we'll keep this a secret between the two of us, and she laughs despite her illness. He then tells her to take the medicine, but she refuses, saying it tastes awful and hides under the blanket. Falma suggests, how about we mix the bitter medicine with delicious macarons? She agrees. He mixes the medicine with the sweets and Blanche is surprised, asking, can you really do that? He reassures her, yes, this medicine is fine that way. Don't worry, it's only harmful with certain medicines, so just ask me first next time. She nods. Falma advises her to drink plenty of water throughout the day, especially after meals. Blanche takes the medicine. She then tells Falma that their father said there's no cure for her illness. Falma is shocked and nervously tells her he found this treatment in one of the books. Blanche asks, is that one of father's books? How does he not know about it? He explains that their father is always busy, so he didn't have time to read this particular book. He tells her it's important to keep this a secret between them, and she agrees happily. Blanche starts scratching her spots, and Falma warns her not to, explaining that scratching will release the virus from the spots. Blanche is curious and asks him to teach her about viruses. Falma explains, they're like evil spirits that come out of the spots, but they're so tiny we can't see them with our eyes. Blanche gets scared and hides under the blanket, so Falma reassures her, don't be afraid. After we apply this ointment, I'll stay here with you for a while. He applies the ointment and stays with her. Blanche says, you've changed so much, brother. Falma asks, how? Why do you say that? She responds, you never played with me before or fed me like you do now. You've become very kind, brother. Falma asks, so, am I strange now? Blanche says, I don't know, but I love my brother just the way he is now, and she cries happily. Falma remembers his sister from his previous life who was also ill, and he tears up. Blanche asks, are you okay? Is something in your eye? A few days later, their father and Falma visit Blanche. Their father asks her how she's feeling and if she has any pain or loss of appetite. Blanche replies, no pain, I'm hungry. Her father says, you've recovered very quickly. Blanche almost tells her father about what happened but looks at Falma and says, that's a secret, and laughs. Later, Falma is in his room, thinking about his supernatural powers and what he will do next. He successfully creates a magical device similar to a telescope and is very happy. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door, and a servant tells him his father wants to see him. Falma goes to his father, who tells him to prepare quickly to leave with him. His father is very ill and still coughing. His father informs him that they have an urgent house call to visit Her Majesty the Queen. Falma is surprised and asks, a house call to the Empress? Is there a problem? His father replies that the Empress's condition has worsened. Falma is still confused about what's wrong with her and is very worried about his father. He is about to use his eye on his father to find out what's bothering him. At that moment, his father asks him what's wrong, and Falma gets flustered and asks about the Empress's condition. His father says they can't discuss it there and tells him to get ready to leave quickly. Falma and his father arrive at the royal palace and meet the chief royal physician. Falma's father asks about the Empress's condition and the physician says it's very serious, and her lungs are deteriorating daily. The palace is in chaos, and everyone is worried about the Empress's health. Falma and his father enter the Empress's chamber and apologize for disturbing her while she's ill. Falma is astonished to see her so weak and says, is this the Empress, Queen Elizabeth? His father begins examining the Empress and calls Falma to bring the medical bag quickly. Falma hands him the bag, and his father starts administering medicine to the Empress, trying to help her recover. They leave, fearing she might die soon, as it seems to be her fate. Falma's father prepares a painkiller for the Empress to ease her suffering until her time comes. He asks the Empress how she feels, and she replies, tell me the truth. There's no hope for my recovery, is there? He reluctantly confirms her fears. Falma is worried about the Empress and thinks this is euthanasia. She won't recover, and no one here can help. Falma decides to use his magical eye on the Empress and discovers that her illness is pneumonia, but it's actually tuberculosis, also known as the White Death. He starts thinking about a suitable treatment and finally finds a solution, but the situation is critical. He looks at his father. At that moment, the prince, a small child, runs to the Empress, crying, you'll get better, right? He clings to her, crying. The Empress wants to comfort him but can't move her body, and everyone around them weeps at the sight. Falma makes a decision and approaches the Empress, saying, "I know I'm not worthy, but may I treat you? I have a new medicine for your Majesty's illness." Everyone is shocked, and his father asks, "What are you saying?" The Empress asks, "Is this true?" Falma's father pulls him back, saying, "This is not a time for jokes, boy." The Empress orders his father to let him speak and asks Falma, "You know the medicine? You know my illness, don't you?" Falma replies, "Yes, Your Majesty." The Empress says, "I trust you." The chief physician is worried about the Empress, but she reassures him, saying she was the best magic user in the Empire and can still sense who is trustworthy. Falma enters the laboratory and starts writing down the medications he's thinking of for the Empress's treatment. After a while, he writes down the formulae and begins making the medicine. His father tries to stop him, asking what he's doing, but Falma has sealed the door with ice magic until his father breaks through it, demanding an explanation. Falma responds, "I'm making medicine for Her Majesty." His father tells him to stop being foolish, as no one in the world can cure the White Death. Falma is surprised to learn that his father also knows about the Empress's illness. They argue about finding a cure, and Falma insists he will make the medicine. His father attacks him with magic, demanding to know Falma's plan, threatening him with ice shards. Falma blocks the attack, creating an ice wall, preventing his father from reaching him. His father is shocked and asks calmly, "Who are you?" Falma's father asks again, "Who are you?" Falma explains that he dreamed of all the medicines in the notebook the day he was struck by lightning. His father acknowledges this as a turning point and recognizes the mark of the Lord on Falma's shoulder. Falma tells his father to let him make the medicine for Her Majesty, as it will preserve his father's standing at the royal court. His father insists that the medicine is Falma's, and he must present it under his own name, as the Empress has put her trust in him. Falma quickly removes the ice and continues making the medicine, leaving his father astonished by his son's extraordinary abilities. His father recalls teaching young Falma about pharmacology and says, "Yes, you truly are my son, Falma." Falma smiles at him. Falma enters the Empress's chamber after finishing the medicine, apologizing for the delay, and presents the treatment. The chief physician asks Falma's father if he shouldn't stop his son. Falma's father responds, "No, his talent surpasses all of ours. All we can do is watch." Falma tells the Empress he wants to show her something before administering the medicine. He asks for her cooperation, and she agrees. He lets her use the telescope he made to see the germs causing her illness. She is astonished and says, "They look like living creatures." The chief physician also examines the sample and is amazed, asking, "Are these insects?" The other palace physicians begin examining the blood sample as well. Falma explains everything about germs and bacteria, telling the Empress she needs to follow the medication regimen for a whole year to fully recover. The chief physician protests, saying it's a long time, but Falma explains it's a very stubborn illness. The Empress, trusting Falma, agrees to take his medicine. Falma promises to monitor her daily to ensure her health. To reassure everyone, he takes the medicine himself before the Empress. Falma later announces that the White Death is no longer a problem as it now has a cure. All the physicians start paying attention to Falma, eager to learn more. Falma and his father return to their estate, with Falma feeling nervous every time his father looks at him in the carriage. Upon arriving home, Falma talks to his father, saying he's happy the Empress could finally sleep and rest well. His father replies, "Yes, all thanks to your medicine." Falma gives his father medicine for his cough, saying it's not perfect but hopes his father will always be his guide. They shake hands, and the family welcomes them back. 3 months pass since the Queen's visit to the Imperial Palace, and Falma is sitting with his father in the office, exchanging knowledge accumulated over the past period. His father then tells him that a group had come wanting the recipe to make the cure for the White Death and had asked for permission to publish it. But knowing that no one could make the cure except Falma, his father gave them a good excuse and sent them away. Falma tells his father that anyone can make the cure and that he will soon publish the recipe so everyone can benefit. Falma sits and talks with his father about medicines and how to spread them in this world so everyone can make them. His father tells him that this will make many people want to harm him, and they discuss the situation in the kingdom for a while. When it's time for Falma to go to the Queen's palace, he leaves his father and heads there. He arrives at the Queen's palace, and Falma enters to find the Queen looking much better and still taking her medicine as usual. Falma tells her that the medicine is working very well so far. The Queen responds, saying, "Stop being modest. The medicine is very effective. I am improving day by day." Falma replies, "Yes, but we don't know what might happen tomorrow with medicines and people." The Queen says, "So, you mean there's no guaranteed cure? But you weren't like this in front of the court doctors when you explained the treatment to them." Falma laughs, and the Queen says, "Don't worry, I understand you well. Back then, I was dying, at the peak of despair, but your conviction made me believe and gave me hope." At that moment, sadness appears on the Queen's face. Falma asks her, "Who was always by your side when you were always so sick?" She responds, "My son, Louis." Falma says, "You see, you are important as a mother to your son Louis. Besides, all the people in the Empire love and respect you greatly. As long as they are around, you will always have great value throughout the country." The Queen laughs and says, "You always say such big words and make me laugh and feel at ease." Falma apologizes if he said anything out of place and bids the Queen farewell, saying, I'll see you tomorrow, Your Majesty. After some time, the queen recovers and can finally move again, returning to her duties. She meets with Falma's father and wishes him eternal health. She says, I know I summoned you suddenly, which startled you, but I'm sorry. I summoned you today for your son's future. The day passes, and Falma is going with his father to a grand celebration at the Queen's palace. Falma asks his father, shouldn't I not come with you to this party? His father replies, what are you saying? You are the son of a Grand Duke, one of the highest ranking people in the country. Hold your head up and be proud of yourself. The Queen then calls the Grand Duke and honors him with a reward for his dedication to her treatment. Then she calls Falma, who can't believe it, and promotes him to royal pharmacist from today, instead of an apprentice. She also grants him permission to open his pharmacy in the royal capital, and Falma is very happy at this moment. Indeed, the Queen sends Falma the talented workers from the palace to build his pharmacy, ensuring everything is ready, including the land to build it on. Falma begins designing the pharmacy he wants, and they start the construction quickly. Later, Falma visits the construction site and the head craftsman asks him, tell me, what will the pharmacy's name be? Falma thinks to himself that he always wanted a pharmacy but never imagined it would be in a parallel world. The head craftsman says, I see, sir, and names the pharmacy Parallel World, surprising Falma since he didn't intend it. He was just talking to himself. But the name pleases Ellen very much, and she says, that's an amazing name. At that moment, a burly man approaches and says to Falma, tell me, boy, who owns this fancy pharmacy? Falma replies, I do. The man says, I'm sorry, I am the head of the Pharmacists Guild, San Fallacy Varan. It's a pleasure to meet you. Falma replies, nice to meet you too. I am the royal pharmacist, Falma de Medicis. San then says to Falma, your shop is impressive, but what medicines are you planning to sell? Judging by your age, it looks like candies and lollipops, right? Ellen wants to put the bully in his place, but Falma stops her and calmly replies, yes, we will provide candy-like forms such as lozenges. The man continues trying to provoke Falma, but Falma responds calmly, angering the man more. Ellen then tells him, frustrated, get lost. Now, if you come here again, I will deal with you myself, scaring him away immediately. Falma then looks for someone to work with him and Ellen in the store, needing someone for accounting. Lotte appears, wanting to work with him in any capacity, so he hires her, but he still needs someone for the accounts. When he goes home, he finds that their servant, Cedric, has reached retirement age and will leave the estate, bidding farewell to everyone. Blanche cries because Cedric is leaving, and it is revealed that Cedric also managed all the financial accounts for the district under the family's rule. Falma tells Cedric to come to the pharmacy so he can treat him and, once treated, have him work at the pharmacy. Falma quickly asks his father for permission, who tells him to do what he wants. The father gives Falma a large box of gold, saying, this is my gift to you for opening your store, making Falma very happy. It turns out the father also arranged for Cedric to help Falma in the store, not really for retirement. Then Falma is at the store, and it's been a month since the store opened. Falma is upset because there aren't as many customers as he expected. Ellen tells him that's natural since commoners will surely go to common fallacies and not come to a noble's fallacy like this. Falma says it looks like we have a long journey ahead of us. Then they sit in the office, and Ellen says there are many famous pharmacists among the commoners, and since you are the son of an archduke, the commoners are wary of you. Cedric asks what they will do to solve this situation and attract more customers to the store. Falma says he wants patients with serious conditions to come here because they are the ones who desperately need the medicine and can't afford it otherwise. At that moment, Lodi enters and says, here are the surveys I conducted among the town's residents to find out what they need the most. Ellen is surprised and asks how Lodi managed to gather all this information. Lodi laughs and says she always talks to people in the city. Lodi explains that she surveyed 100 people in the city, and their feelings toward the pharmacy are that the royal seal outside intimidates them, and they don't know the etiquette of talking to nobles, so they fear offending and being punished. All the reasons stem from class differences and appearances. They decide to address these issues, and the next day they reopen the store. An old man named John walks in, and Falma welcomes him, making John their first regular customer. Falma then asks John if he spends a lot of time at sea, which surprises John. Falma explains it's to know how to prevent sea diseases and give him protective medicine like those containing vitamin C. But John doesn't respond and says someone is waiting for him outside. He leaves, and Falma follows, finding John standing with two others who also seem to be pharmacists, surprising Falma. At that moment, Falma's father and mother enter, hiding their faces with masks, but Falma recognizes them immediately. They come into the store, and Falma's mother asks how he recognized them despite their good disguise. Falma says they could have just informed him they were coming. His mother replies they wanted to take a quick look without disturbing him. Falma's father then asks if they can look around the store, and Falma agrees, showing them the entire store. He takes them to the first floor, explaining that it's the main area of the store with storage, the preparation lab, and the waiting room. The second floor is for medical care and patient treatment, with isolation rooms for patients and also housing rulers. The third floor is a rest area for the staff. Falma's mother is surprised and asks if there's even a kitchen. Falma then takes them to the fourth floor, which is his personal space for conducting research and developing medicines. His father is very impressed with the store and says it's excellent. They then sit down, and his father asks about the customers and whether there are any. Falma gets nervous and can't respond. His father comments that it seems like only nobles and merchants visit occasionally. Falma admits that the challenge they face is making commoners feel welcome in the store. His mother suggests an idea: start selling cosmetics to aristocrats. This will spread among them, and if the prices are reasonable, commoners will come for them too. Falma remembers a project he once worked on to develop cosmetics and likes the idea. He asks his mother what products she suggests starting with. She replies that, for her, skincare products would be the best choice. At that moment, Falma's father adds, "Promise me, if you enter the cosmetics field, you won't produce white face powder." Falma is puzzled, and his mother tells his father he's going back to that topic again, saying he even forbids her from using it. His father explains that it harms women's health and makes them age faster, which goes against medical principles. Falma is amazed by his father, thinking he's impressive as always for discovering something like this without advanced tools and devices. At that moment, a person rushes in, calling for the pharmacist, which is Falma, saying the lady he's serving has suddenly collapsed and asks Falma to examine her. Falma quickly goes to the patient at her carriage. The patient is a noblewoman named Chloe. Falma begins examining her and uses his magic eye to find that she simply had blood drawn, causing her fatigue. Chloe asks how that could cause such exhaustion, as the one who did it is a precise doctor. Falma asks why she would have blood drawn when she's not ill, telling her not to worry and that he will prescribe her medicine, asking her to come to the pharmacy if possible. Indeed, she goes with him to the pharmacy. We learn she had her blood drawn to make her skin pale, believing it would make her more beautiful. Falma tells her that what she did puts her life at risk. Lodi asks Cedric who this lady is. Cedric replies that she's the daughter of Marquis de Chatillon, a very famous businessman. Falma gives her medicine for anemia and inflammation from the blood draw, instructing her to take it 3 times daily, morning, noon, and evening. He also tells her not to use white powders again as they endanger her life. The lady starts crying at this, and Lodi asks Falma if there's no way they can help the lady. Falma thinks of a cosmetic product he can make for her, and an idea comes to mind. He tells her to come to the pharmacy in a week, and he'll have a solution ready for her. Falma starts working on the face whitening product. Ellen laughs at him, and Falma asks them what they think, saying his face has become very pale. Cedric comments that it's extremely white. Falma explains that this is what he'll give to Chloe but wanted to test it on himself first. Ellen reminds him that his father said white powders are very harmful to health. Falma reassures her and shows her the product, explaining that it doesn't contain any lead or mercury compounds. It's made from safe and gentle ingredients for the skin. Ellen asks what's wrong with mercury and lead. Falma explains that they are toxic substances. Ellen is shocked, and Falma wipes his face clean. He explains that when the body absorbs a large amount of these substances, it damages the kidneys and nerves. Ellen suggests that products containing these substances should be banned. Falma agrees, saying he'll report it to the queen next time he sees her. Lodi praises Falma, saying he's amazing for even knowing about women's cosmetics. A week later, Chloe comes to the pharmacy and Falma welcomes her. She asks if he has prepared the cosmetics for her. Falma confirms he has everything ready as promised and instructs her on how to use them. He tells her to wash her face first, apply the moisturizer, then use the product he prepared for her. Chloe is surprised that none of these products are powders like she's used to. Falma explains that he thought it was better to make it like an ointment rather than a powder. It will also protect her from sunburn as it acts like a sunblock. Chloe is astonished and asks how he made it. Falma begins explaining chemical processes that neither she nor we can understand, leaving her bewildered. She says she doesn't understand anything, so Falma simplifies it, saying it prevents sun damage. After Chloe finishes, she looks at herself in the mirror, astonished, and tells Falma that this is very different from any powder she has seen before. Not only that, but it also acts as a makeup remover since it's made from nourishing ingredients for the skin. She's amazed and cries with joy, thanking Falma profusely, saying it's much better than bloodletting. Then, Lodi starts distributing samples of the cosmetics in the town, essentially advertising the place. Both nobles and commoners show interest, and everyone wants to get their hands on them. During this time, the store becomes crowded with all kinds of people, bustling with many customers. At that moment, old John comes in and tells Falma that the place is quite busy these days. Falma replies, "Yes, as you can see." Chloe returns and finds that the cosmetics are sold out. She brings her friends who also want the products. Falma apologizes, saying that due to high demand, they ran out. He explains that his staff is small, so they can only produce limited quantities. Chloe then suggests an idea: how about opening a dedicated branch of your store for cosmetics? I will fund it with money, what do you think? Falma considers the situation. Cedric reassures him, saying, "Don't worry, the Chloe family is excellent as business partners, and I will handle the paperwork." Falma likes the idea and accepts Chloe's offer. They open a branch exclusively for cosmetics. He is amazed at how beautiful the place is. Chloe asks, "What do you think, Falma?" He responds, "You did everything very quickly, but what about the staff?" She tells him not to worry, as she hired top-notch pharmacists to work with them. Things go exceptionally well during this period. Lodi conducts another survey about the residents' opinions on Falma's stores. This time, all feedback is positive and very good, and everyone is happy that the situation has finally become excellent. After that, the family goes to the town they are responsible for, and the father, along with his assistants, receives the report for managing the area. These are reports of 5 years of trade profits and expenses, with Falma standing beside them, listening. We learn that this area was given to the Archduke by the Queen for his contribution to her treatment. The town is very important and strategically located because it has the main commercial facility, known as the Empire's Gateway. Moreover, this area is a primary source of medicinal herbs, making it very valuable in terms of agriculture as well. We hear the financial officer of the area telling the father that there is still a problem with the Dutch East India Company, as they are using their influence to cancel agreements as they please and are not adhering to taxes either. The father then calls Falma and tells him, "What are you still doing here? Go enjoy yourself and explore as you wish." The financial officer suggests, "The sea here is beautiful, you can enjoy the view there," and his father adds, "Just don't go into the water unless you have an adult with you and take care of yourself." Falma goes to the beach and finds Blanche and Lodi playing in the sand, making a beautiful sandcastle. Blanche asks him, "Can Lodi and I play in the water for a bit?" Falma replies, "Your father said you can't go in the water and you don't know how to swim, right Blanche?" They keep pleading with him until he agrees but tells them, "Only your feet can touch the water, nothing more. Don't let the water touch your clothes." They run to the sea, very happy. Later, Elin comes over and comments they seem to be having a lot of fun, and says, "I will go for a swim too," feeling very happy. She asks Falma, "Aren't you going to swim?" He replies, "No, I'll stay here." Falma looks at his sister and remembers his little sister from his old life, recalling how they used to swim in the sea every year. He remembers that his sister always wanted to play with him in the sea, but later they discovered she was ill. He returns to the present, feeling very sad and crying. Suddenly, a wave of water pulls Blanche into the sea, and Lodi screams as Blanche is about to drown. Falma runs quickly, jumps into the water, and swims rapidly. He dives to save her, thinking he will never lose his sister again. At that moment, the emblem on his shoulder activates, creating a void without water in the middle of the sea. He is shocked, finding Blanche and Elin lying on the ground without any water touching them, even though they are in the middle of the sea. Elin gets up, astonished by what just happened. She sees Falma holding Blanche, walking back to the shore. Blanche is crying and scared, but Falma comforts her, checking on her with his magic eye. Elin asks him, "What did you just do?" He replies, "I don't know, but it seems like negative class magic." She responds, "That's not ordinary magic. You removed an entire area from existence in seconds," and Lodi stands there, frightened by what she saw as well. Elin tells him that what he did was amazing. She wouldn't have been able to do anything for Blanche in that situation, even with her magic. She tells him he saved Blanche. Blanche hugs Falma tightly, apologizing, and he pats her, crying too, happy that he managed to save her this time. In the evening, as Falma is about to sleep, he reflects on what happened at the sea. Lodi apologizes to him, saying she should have saved his sister. He tells her she did the right thing by not entering the water since she can't swim. Meanwhile, a group of cultists is discussing a boy who performed miraculous deeds. They are referring to Falma and their leader instructs them to verify the boy's existence and eliminate him as quickly as possible. A week later, Falma returns to the pharmacy with Elin, finding the store extremely busy with long lines of customers. Falma notices two strangers talking to each other, seemingly watching him. He approaches them, asking, "Can I help you with anything?" They give him a strange look and leave. Falma later tells Elin what happened, expressing his concern about the suspicious strangers. Elin agrees, saying she also felt uneasy about them and noting that they seemed particularly interested in Falma. Lodi mentions that she tried to talk to them, but they didn't respond at all. Falma concludes that they didn't seem like they wanted to buy anything, as they didn't even look at the shelves in the store. Elin also notes that their attire doesn't resemble any guilds in the country, suggesting they might be temple priests, though she had never seen such outfits in the Empire before. Lodi suggests informing the guards outside, and Falma agrees, saying he doesn't want any harm to come to their customers, though he remains somewhat worried. The next morning, a cart crashes into the pharmacy, and the guard apologizes to Falma's father for failing to stop it. The father is very angry, declaring that whoever did this has greatly wronged the family and will pay the price no matter what. The head servant asks who could have done this and why. The father responds that it must be someone trying to hinder Falma's work, as many must be upset by Falma's rapid progress in the field, despite being new. The father instructs the guard to report to the royal palace immediately, saying he will write a report for the queen right away. The guard obeys and runs to carry out the order. Falma tells his father he will go check on the pharmacy quickly, but his father stops him, asking if he has any idea who might have done this, stating that their action is a declaration of war against their family, the de Medicis. Falma considers that it could be the pharmacists' guild or the people with the strange attire. However, he tells his father that rushing to conclusions might unjustly accuse someone, so he asks for some time to gather accurate information. The father is impressed by Falma's wise response and agrees, instructing him to be careful as the enemy might use any deceitful means to harm him. The place is in complete disarray, with Cedric and the workers trying to fix the destruction. Falma apologizes for the delay and asks Cedric about the situation, checking if anyone got hurt. Cedric reassures him, saying no one was injured, But the store is in a terrible state, as he can see. The store is a complete mess, with goods scattered all over the floor. Falma is shocked by the scene. Then, a group of people arrives with old John to help Falma tidy up the place. They appear to be a group of strong sailors. Falma thanks them, and the men start cleaning up. Falma sees that the town's residents have all come to help fix the place, feeling very happy about it. Cedric, feeling pleased, comments, "Who knew our store was so beloved by the people?" Falma agrees, thanking everyone for their help. At that moment, a lady runs in, asking Falma for help, saying her father fainted from the heat and hasn't woken up for a long time. The people urge Falma to go help the sick man, assuring him they will take care of the place. Falma goes with her on horseback, entering a very remote area in the forest. As Falma analyzes the situation, the girl tells him her father is at the hill over there. Falma then realizes they are very far out, and just as he asks where her sick father is, she disappears. A group of people dressed in strange, frightening outfits surrounds Falma, having led him into a trap. At that moment, their leader addresses Falma, asking, "Are you the boy who removed the sea in Mars? The boy without a shadow? Answer me. We are investigators from the Great Kingdom." Falma becomes tense, unsure of how to respond. Then Falma remembers that these men are from the Great Solomon Temple and says to their leader, "You are temple men, right?" The leader replies, "Yes, we are men of the Great Solomon Temple." "Tell me, you shadowless boy, you are very bold to open a pharmacy in the middle of the city. Are you not an evil spirit disguised as a boy?" Falma responds, "What evil spirit, man? Are you crazy? I am not an evil spirit or anything." The leader asks, "Then what are you?" Falma replies, "I am just a normal human being." The leader says, "You will answer me word for word. Step back 10 steps and raise your hands." Falma complies and steps back, but they betray him and bind him with magic restraints. However, Falma breaks the spell with his strength, shocking all the temple men. Falma tells them, "See, I am not an evil spirit or anything." At that moment, one of the men attacks him with flames and demands, "Reveal your true form." Falma uses his magic to dispel the fire with his anti-fire magic, astonishing them as he did all that without even a magic wand. Unsure of what to do, they attack him again with the power of flaming swords. Again, Falma deflects the attack and completely removes the ice, leaving them shocked that he has more than one attribute. Falma looks at them and says, "I told you, I am just an ordinary human." The leader becomes more enraged and insane, ordering them to eliminate Falma completely. He attacks Falma as well, insisting that Falma must be killed quickly. They all charge at Falma with great speed using all kinds of magic, thinking they have finished him off. However, they are shocked that he is stronger than all of them and blocks every attack with an amazing ice shield. Falma tells them, "I wish to avoid violence with you, but you brought this upon yourselves." Falma makes a small attack on their leader, knocking him off his horse. Falma then raises a huge ice rock above them and asks, "Will you stop this nonsense, or do I have to crush you? I didn't come here to kill anyone." The men are amazed to see Falma's body glowing with a magical aura, and the leader notices the magical mark on Falma's back. He realizes, this unlimited power, the shadowless body, and the strength of the great apothecary lord. How did I not see it? This boy is the apothecary lord himself. Falma is stunned to hear this, and the men apologize to Falma for their behavior and disrespect. The leader, Salomon, is injured from falling off his horse. The men worry about him, and Salomon declares that the wound will be his end, and he will die from it anyway. He tells Falma that he will die as punishment for disrespecting the great apothecary lord and draws a weapon to end his own life, asking Falma for forgiveness. Falma stops Salomon, hides the weapon, and tells him, "I said I don't want anyone to get hurt in this world. All I want is for you to leave me and my pharmacy alone." Falma uses his magical eye to examine Salomon's leg, finding a broken shin and an open fracture. Falma sees that the treatment is amputation below the knee, but he finds a better solution, a leg reduction surgery. However, he is unsure who can perform the surgery. Falma thinks and tells Salomon that he is a pharmacist, not a surgeon, and that even in the best universities in his world, the success rate for such a surgery is low. Falma turns his back to them and tells them to forget what they are about to see. He prepares the area for the surgery. Salomon asks, "You won't punish us?" Falma responds, "Don't worry about that now. Your treatment is the priority." After preparing, Falma begins the surgery. He gives Salomon some medicine to prevent any infection, injects his back with an anesthetic, sterilizes the wound, removes external debris and damaged tissue, and stitches the wound with antiseptic threads and bandages. He then tells them to move Salomon to another place to stabilize his leg. Salomon is amazed that he doesn't feel any pain and asks, "Is this one of your great abilities?" Falma doesn't respond and finishes the surgery, then steps out. The men are worried, but Falma tells them that Salomon is fine and that they should take him to the temple. Falma will come to check on him later. They thank him for forgiving them and for treating their leader. Falma tells them, "What I did is the path of medicine I chose, and as a human, I chose to do what I can. Days later, Salomon recovers and visits Falma at the pharmacy. He meets Elaine and Lotte, giving them sweets as a gift after introducing himself. He then meets Falma and apologizes for the trouble he caused. Salomon tells Falma that he has been promoted in the temple and has requested to cover all evidence of Falma's shadowless existence. He will also serve Falma faithfully from now on. Falma responds, fine, but what is this large entourage with you? This is a bit much for a ceremonial visit. Salomon requests some time to talk with Falma, so Falma closes the shop for lunch. Lotte is walking in the garden and finds Blanche looking at the shop, unsure whether to enter. She asks, what brings you here today? Blanche responds that Falma promised to take her out today and notices the sweets in Lotte's hand, asking, what are those? Meanwhile, inside the shop, Salomon presents Falma with an excellent magic wand befitting his high status. Falma and Elaine are amazed by its majestic appearance. Falma asks, what is this? Salomon replies, this is one of the temple's ancient treasures for the great apothecary lords. It contains the 4 attributes and is suitable for combat, diagnosis, and magical healing. You can also adjust its size as you wish. Elaine is astonished by its beauty, saying, it's so beautiful. Falma asks, are you sure you want to give me something so magnificent? Salomon replies, of course. The wand itself will recognize your worth. Falma asks, what if it gets stolen or broken? Salomon says, don't worry, just hold it and you'll understand. Falma takes the wand, and it reacts to him, glowing brightly. Falma is amazed, and Salomon rejoices, saying, I knew it, the apothecary wand has recognized you. Elaine is stunned and admiring the wand's appearance. Falma asks her if she wants to hold it and she says, can I? Falma replies, of course. As soon as she touches it, it becomes transparent, and she falls to the ground, meaning no one can hold or destroy the wand except Falma. Falma asks Salomon, what's happening? Salomon explains, don't worry, it's normal. This wand is not from our world, and no human can hold it. Only the great apothecary lords can. Falma discovers that he can also float using the wand, impressing Salomon and Elaine with his power. After the visit, Salomon informs Falma that they were not responsible for the carriage incident. He says they are still investigating and gives Falma another gift, a pendant that allows him to suppress his immense power, so no one can detect him in the future. Falma finds that he now has a shadow and thanks Salomon for the great gift. Later, Falma goes for a walk in the city with his sister Blanche and Lotte, enjoying the day and the outing with them. He then returns to work at the pharmacy with relief. At night, the pharmacist who opposed the medicines Falma sold because of the guild finds his daughter gravely ill. The next day, the head of the pharmacists guild gathers with the whole team to punish Falma's store. He says that Falma has crossed the line with his store. One of the problems for the other store owners is that Falma sells medicine at very low prices, even affordable for the poor. He doesn't understand why this is such a big issue, but it is their problem. The guild leader is extremely angry with Falma, nitpicking and saying that Falma only got where he is because of his father's money. He says that if it weren't for his father, Falma wouldn't be famous or have any value at all. The bigger issue is that the queen is supporting him. The pharmacists talk among themselves, suspecting that Varen was behind the attack on the carriage that hit the pharmacy, where the guild leader works. At this point, the guild leader tells them that Falma's pharmacy is the source of all their problems, and they must get rid of it quickly by any means necessary. The leader decides it's forbidden for any pharmacists to deal with Falma or his store, and anyone who disobeys will be expelled from the guild and have their license revoked. Meanwhile, the pharmacist whose daughter is sick searches for a doctor to treat her, but the pharmacy is closed. He meets Falma, who tells him the pharmacy is closed for a week and asks about his daughter, saying, did she suddenly fall ill? But when the man realizes it's Falma, the royal doctor who has been banned, he doesn't respond. Falma introduces himself and says he's a pharmacist from the Parallel World Pharmacy, asking for permission to examine the daughter. The man is very nervous but, seeing how sick his daughter is, decides to let Falma check her. Lotte tells Falma, I'll go ahead and make the preparations for you. Falma and the man arrive at the pharmacy later, entering through the back to avoid the crowd. When they enter the store, the man is amazed by the pharmacy. Falma begins examining the girl, telling the father to put on a mask for hygiene and safety, explaining that it's to prevent the spread of infection. The man realizes at this point that Falma took him through the back in trance not to belittle him but for safety and to avoid spreading infection, nothing more. Falma examines the girl and asks the father, may I ask, what's your daughter's name and age? The man replies, Marie, and she's 7 years old. Falma asks, when was her last meal? The man says, yesterday at noon. Falma tells him, your daughter has a severe fever and dehydration and she's not fully conscious. The man is amazed by Falma's attention to every detail about the patient. Falma then asks, what's Marie's exact weight? The father, surprised, says, honestly, I don't know. Falma responds, alright, let's weigh her now. Falma measures Marie's weight with the scale. The man, still puzzled, asks why Falma needs the weight. Falma explains explains that it's to calculate the correct dosage for her. The man is shocked by Falma's precision and everything he's doing. Falma then uses the magic eye in front of him, leaving the man astonished, and he asks, "Is that magic?" Falma says, "Yes." Falma tells him, "I've diagnosed her illness. She has a severe cold, nothing more." The man is stunned, asking, "All this because of a cold?" Falma begins to explain Marie's condition, and the man is astonished. Falma gives him the medicine for Marie, and the man is amazed by everything Falma has done. That night, as the man walks home with Marie, he sees that the medicine is working. He thanks Falma for helping her, but Falma tells him, "It's not important, what matters is Marie's health." Falma gives him medicine that will last Marie for 5 years, saying, "But if she gets sick again at night or anything, just bring her to me, don't worry." When the man asks about the payment, Falma tells him, "The price is very low, just the cost of a loaf of bread." The man is shocked and says, "That's an incredibly low price." Falma explains, "We keep the price low to make it easier to treat children," and bids them farewell. The man returns home and starts preparing his doses for his pharmacy, doing his own research. His wife comes later and asks about Marie, and he tells her she's fine and sleeping peacefully, saying it's definitely because of the medicine. He tells her it's thanks to the medicine made by the noble boy, Falma. His wife is shocked and says, "But you violated the guild's laws." He replies, "I don't know if Marie would have survived if I hadn't gone to him. His pharmacy is incredible, and the store owner has immense knowledge. He personally takes great care of the patients, the way all pharmacists should." He admits that he thought he had a strong understanding of the medical field and a lot of confidence in himself, but he can't compare to that boy at all. Since he's also blind, he doesn't even have magical abilities to help him, and he wishes he could contribute any talent he has to the store. Before his wife can respond, he cuts her off, saying, "I know that opposing the guild is like committing professional suicide as a pharmacist." His wife consoles him as they both cry. He tells her that with the guild's methods, if anything happens to her or Marie, he wouldn't be able to help them, and he cries deeply. The Pharmacist Guild holds another meeting and discusses how sales are declining in all the commoner fallacies. They mention that Falma is planning to open another store besides the pharmacy and the beauty branch. The guild leader is frustrated, even admitting that his own wife secretly buys cosmetics from Falma's store, and they're unsure what to do. Finally, the guild leader asks Mr. Pierre, the owner of the Sunbeam Pharmacy, who is Marie's father. He asks, "Pierre, are you the one I'm asking?" The guild leader confirms, "Yes, your store is the closest to his." Pierre gets nervous but decides to speak bravely, saying, "I'll be honest. Have any of you visited that store? Have you seen the medicine he gives to people?" The others angrily respond, "Of course not. They're our competitors." Pierre replies, "Well, you should go see for yourself. One visit is all it'll take, and you'll understand why our customers don't even glance at our stores anymore, just like I don't." The guild leader angrily retorts, "You've been to his store?" Pierre replies, "Yes, my daughter had a severe fever, and I couldn't treat her. Falma cured her and improved her condition in a very short time." Pierre continues, "In that store, everyone is treated equally, regardless of social status." The guild leader grows angrier, venting all his frustrations, revealing his fear that Falma might eventually adopt noble attitudes and abandon his store once people rely on him. Pierre insists that's exactly why we should learn from him, so his knowledge doesn't remain exclusive to his store. Pierre tries to convince them, but the stubborn guild leader continues turning everyone against Falma. He expels Pierre from the guild entirely, not stopping there, as the idiots even destroy Pierre's store and beat him up. At this point, Falma finds Pierre sitting in front of his destroyed store and asks, "Are you okay? Is this your store? You're a pharmacist too." Pierre tells Falma everything that happened, saying he now has to leave the town if he wants to work again and start from scratch with his family. Falma replies, "The Queen has given me an order to establish a new doctor's guild. You can join me there." Pierre is overjoyed by this glimmer of hope and cries with happiness, thanking Falma. A few days later, Pierre opens his new store, now a partner with Falma. He's nervous at first, but once the store opens, the crowd is massive, as the pharmacy has become part of the parallel world pharmacy. Then the scene shifts to a flashback in the past, where Falma's father is still young and his friend is being tormented because of his evil experiments and twisted theories, that people must die to allow new ones to be born. At this moment, Falma's father wakes up startled from his sleep, and we realize that this is a part of his past that he keeps dreaming about. The next day, everyone is gathered for breakfast, and Falma notices his father's fatigue, so he asks him what's wrong. His father replies, "I'm fine, I was just recalling some old things," and though he wants to open up to Falma, he holds back and says, "It's nothing, don't worry about it." At that moment, he receives a letter from his eldest son, Bali. Falma is surprised when he sees his little sister Blanche getting scared upon hearing her brother's name. Their mother is delighted, though, as Bali will soon return home for a visit, but the father says that Bali mentioned in his letter that the visit would be delayed a bit. Blanche asks Falma, "Is Bali busy?" He replies, "Of course, he's a university student, so he must be very busy with his studies." Later, the father calls Falma and tells him, "Come to my office when you have time," but they go there immediately. Once inside, the father tells Falma that the capital will host the St. Fleuve Fair next month. He explains that the fair is where merchants from all over the world gather, so they need to be very careful and pay close attention. Falma, surprised, asks, why exactly? The father then reveals that a new plague has spread on Pant Island, a colony of the neighboring country, Netherlands. In Bali's letter, it was mentioned that a large number of people, thousands of families, have died because of this plague. Shocked, Falma asks, this is very serious. Could it be some sort of poison that has spread in the country? His father replies, I don't know for sure, but a team of elite researchers from the Novolud Academy, along with samples to study, have been sent. Unfortunately, 2 of them have already died because of the plague. Falma responds, so, this plague is contagious as well? Yes, the plague has essentially wiped out the entire colony, says the father. But our immediate problem is that ships loaded with goods and merchants will be arriving from Netherlands for the fair. Falma realizes, you're saying a potentially infected cargo is headed straight for our town. The father confirms, yes, and unfortunately, the only trade port capable of receiving Netherlands ships is our own in the Mars area. Falma becomes even more concerned, asking his father if any of the samples from the infected researchers are still available. The father replies that to his knowledge, everything was burned with fire magic for purification. The father then shares the information Bali provided about the symptoms caused by the disease. Falma suspects something and asks if there were any further details. His father reveals that a revolutionary device was presented by an anonymous inventor as a tool for Novolud University's medical faculty. Falma, intrigued, asks, what kind of device is this? It's a microscope, replies the father. It's being used very effectively at the university, and there might be some diagrams of the samples observed under it. Falma excitedly responds, that's great. Could you ask my brother to send those diagrams? The scene then shifts to the Queen's Council with her advisors, discussing the recent developments in the kingdom due to Falma's work and his pharmacy. Everyone is pleased with how his actions have advanced medicine and awareness among the people. The Queen decides that it's time to reward him properly, suggesting, how about we give him the title of Archduke? One of the council members advises against it, saying, unfortunately, he's still too young, a minor, so it's not appropriate. The Queen agrees to postpone the idea. After discussing other matters of the kingdom, the scene returns to Falma at the pharmacy, where he meets Elin. He looks anxious, and she notices, asking, what's wrong with you? Falma tells her, there's something important I need to discuss with you, and proceeds to explain the deadly plague spreading through the country and what he plans to do in the pharmacy. Their conversation is interrupted by Latte, who informs Falma that his brother Bali's letter has arrived. Upon reading it, Falma is visibly shocked and even more tense. Latte asks what's in the letter. We then learn that Falma has developed a suspicion about the disease, though he's not entirely certain yet. The information they have so far is just a drawing, but Falma believes the illness might be the Black Death. Falma then begins preparing to leave for Mars to oversee the fair and sends his assistant doctors ahead. He tells them, go to Mars first and inform Adam, the deputy governor there, to prepare. I've given him all the blueprints and instructions to set things up. After they leave, Falma goes to his father and tells him that he's learned more about the unknown disease, the plague. He tells his father, from the symptoms described, I believe the disease is the Black Death. His father is taken aback and replies, I had a feeling it might be that. I've read about it in the books. I know how dangerous this disease is. The last time it appeared was about 210 years ago, and we know the Black Death is extremely deadly. Falma then explains the preparations he's arranged with Adam for quarantine and the upcoming fair, as well as the ships and cargo coming from Netherlands. His father remains worried and says, I wish there was at least one way we could treat this deadly disease. Falma reassures him, don't worry, I've come up with a new medicine to fight this disease. His father is astonished, you've done that already? Falma confirms, yes, I've developed a new antibiotic called levofloxacin. It's effective against the bacteria that causes the Black Death. For now, I'm the only one who can produce it, but I've distributed some of it to my partner pharmacies recently so it will be available everywhere. His father is amazed and says, you've managed to accomplish all of this? I'm truly impressed. Falma replies, the first thing we need to do is prevent the spread of the infection. We can't allow it to spread any further. His father agrees, you're right. This is a huge responsibility for you to take on by yourself. The father acknowledges, I understand now, your real goal today is. Falma responds, yes, exactly. Although neither Elin nor the others fully understand what they're talking about. The father then suggests, let's go to the royal palace immediately. They rush to see the queen and explain the situation, asking for some necessary actions. The queen agrees, I understand. I'll close most of the town's gates and limit entry points for the merchants. Falma requests checkpoints for inspecting the goods and cargo brought in by the merchants. He also asks the queen to raise public awareness about the situation, to which she agrees and instructs the minister to ensure that the people follow these measures. Falma and his father thank her for her trust in them. The queen tells them, I trust Falma completely, and I have full confidence in his bold requests. Falma is pleased and feels a bit embarrassed by her words. He then begins checking the inspection points for the disease, as well as visiting partner pharmacies like Pierre's to ensure everything is in order. Finally, Falma personally heads to the Mars area, where the fair will be held. Falma arrives in the city of Mars and looks at the ships that have docked at the port. Ellen tells him she never thought she'd return to Mars so soon, especially under such difficult circumstances, and the bigger problem is that any of these ships could be carrying the plague. Falma responds, yes, Ellen, but the important thing now is to inspect the ships before the exhibition begins. He then thinks to himself that what they definitely need to do is eliminate this disease completely. Falma and Ellen prepare and head to the rest of the medical team for inspection. They ask them how things are going with the ships, confirming, you stopped the foreign ships out at sea, right? They reply, yes, just as you instructed, and hand them a list of the cargo and the examination results for the ship crews. Falma takes the reports from them and says, I'll review them. Falma then thanks them and says to Ellen, now it's our turn. Falma and Ellen head to the ships anchored at sea. The crews aboard are frustrated, wanting to unload their cargo quickly, not understanding the delay. Falma explains to them that the precautions are to prevent the spread of the plague. He then asks the ship's doctor to provide a full report on the ship and crew. Falma proceeds to ask the doctor a few questions before beginning to inspect the crew, the cargo, and everything else on board. Finding everything in order, he grants them permission to unload the cargo and provides the doctor with some vitamins for the crew. He then moves on to the next ship. Every ship's captain is arguing over whose turn it is to be inspected, as they are all in a hurry to finish. At this moment, the Imperial Navy arrives, silencing the ships. They are told that anyone wanting to enter must comply with the rules and guidelines. Falma and Ellen are both surprised when they learn that the old Commander Jan is the fleet's admiral. At that point, everyone falls silent, apologizing for their behavior. Falma then goes aboard Commander Jan's ship and thanks him for the help. Falma is busy with the examination process when Adam rushes in with an urgent report. He informs Falma that several people have died in the village of Astak after suffering from severe fever. Falma is shocked. Adam explains that Astak is a small village to the west, and it appears the outbreak occurred because a ship did not follow Mars' instructions and entered illegally through that village. Ellen asks, how did this happen? Where are those people now? Adam responds, unfortunately, they've already left the village, and we don't know their whereabouts. Falma asks Adam to describe the situation in the village. Adam explains that the villagers initially thought it was just a fever, but after the first death, the disease spread rapidly throughout the town. The team is shocked, realizing that the Black Death has reached the mainland. Falma decides he must go there immediately. Ellen protests, wait, you want to go alone to a village where the plague has already spread? Falma tells her, there have been deaths already. I can't afford to waste a second. He gathers his protective equipment and prepares to head to the village. Ellen follows him and says, wait, you're the only one who can accurately diagnose this disease. You're the only one who knows how to manage the port and identify the infected. That's why. Falma interrupts her and reassures her, don't worry, you'll be able to handle the examination here. You need to stay and supervise everything very closely. Falma then uses his magic staff to fly quickly to the village, leaving Ellen very worried about him. Falma decides he must first locate the ship and conduct a thorough examination on it to disinfect it from the plague. He arrives at the village and finds people fleeing, abandoning their homes because of the disease's spread. He mutters to himself how foolish this is, as it will only spread the illness further. Falma stops the people and politely asks them to return to the village. They object, asking him, who are you? They claim that Falma is a stranger who appeared out of nowhere, so he must be the evil spirit who cursed their village. Ignorant fools. Seeing that there's no reasoning with them, Falma forces them to return. He encases the entire village with a massive ice dome. The crowd is terrified and speechless. Falma removes his mask and goggles, revealing his face, and tells them, I'm a royal pharmacist from the capital, here to save you from the Black Death. When they see the royal emblem, they believe him. Falma tells them that he has brought the cure with him and will rid them of the plague once and for all. They ask him, so no one will die now? Falma replies, I can't promise that I'll save everyone, but I vow to work with you and fight this disease, reducing the number of deaths as much as possible. He adds, of course, you have the right to be afraid, but please, stay in the village and accept the treatment. If you don't, I won't be able to save you. They agree, returning to the village. Falma gathers with the doctors there and explains the process they will undertake to detect and treat the illness. Falma instructs them to divide the village into 3 zones, one for those with severe symptoms, one for the infected, and one for those not yet infected. The team asks, so you're saying we should leave the hopeless cases to their fate? Falma responds, no, the idea is to prioritize treatment for those who can be saved, so we can treat them quickly. This is how we can defeat the disease and prevent it from spreading. They reply, got it, we understand now. Meanwhile, Commander Jan and his fleet spot a suspicious ship at sea, realizing it's the one they've been searching for, the source of the plague. As Jan and his fleet approach the ship to investigate, one of his men looks through a telescope and sees that everyone aboard the plague ship is dead. The vice admiral suggests sending a team to inspect the vessel. However, Jan orders against it, saying, if we board that ship, we risk spreading the plague to our own. Jan declares, sadly, there's nothing we can do for them. The best option is to sink the ship and let the current carry it and its cargo into the ocean. He orders the fleet to sink the ship. The ships prepare their cannons and fire at the plague ship, sinking it into the sea. And then the scene shifts to the medical college, where the senior professors are mocking an elderly professor because she's about to retire and won't have a place among them anymore, so they completely ignore her. But at that moment, the university president summons her for an emergency meeting regarding the plague spreading across the country. We return to Falma, who is in the town and getting ready to deal with the sick. He feels anxious about what might happen during this period and says that it looks like the real test is about to begin. He enters the room where the critically ill people are, and only the sorcerers are trying to purify them, while the rest are lying down, dying from the disease. We find out that this group is from the Solomonic Temple, and their leader is one of the commanders under the supreme leader, Solomon. He quickly introduces himself to Falma, who responds, "Yes, yes, I remember you." The leader introduces Falma to the rest of the team as the Great Lord of Medicine. Falma then tells the temple team to help by giving medicine to all the sick as quickly as possible, while he starts examining the patient's conditions. They agree and begin treating the patients immediately. Falma uses his magical eye on the patients and finds that about 12 have the plague, 2 do not have Solemn, and unfortunately, 1 more has died. Falma realizes that the medicine he has can truly cure them all. He starts explaining the condition of each patient in the room to his team, gives the 2 who don't have Solemn their medicine, and sends them out of the room. Falma then begins treating the rest of the patients. He looks over at the other building and says that there is also a group of critically ill people there, and he becomes very anxious about not being able to cure everyone and that the disease might spread quickly to the royal capital. Falma orders the temple team to chase down the merchants who spread the disease and burn their goods quickly before they reach any other place. He says that once he finishes here, he will follow them immediately. They agree and quickly rush off to carry out his orders. Next, we switch to Elin, who is managing the site well. One of her students comes in and hands her the reports for the whole day. Elin thanks her and says she'll check the reports right away. After that, she gives her assistant the approvals for ships to dock so that the merchants can unload their goods. We return to the elderly professor, who goes to the president and says, "You called for me." We find out that this president is Falma's father. He tells her that he called her in for one thing, her research. She says, "You called me, sir, to tell me that my research funding has been cancelled, right? I'm very grateful that you allowed me to continue my research all this time. But if I've become a burden and you can't continue funding the research until I retire, there's no problem. I understand the situation, but I will need a little time to clear out my lab quickly." He says, "Biro, wait a minute, please. You completely misunderstood. You're not a burden at all, and I'm not taking you off your research. In fact, I have a very important task for you, something that no one else in the Empire could do, a task that will save the world." She's shocked and says, "What? Are you serious? I'm going to save the world? No, no way. I'm not suited for something like that." He says, "No, this is your field of expertise. I need you to find a new species of microorganisms and extract a medicinal substance from them." She's surprised and tries to understand the situation. Falma's father hands her the notes that Falma wrote, with detailed descriptions of the disease and the bacteria causing it. She says, "Who's the brilliant scientist that wrote this precise research?" He tells her, "Unfortunately, I can't reveal that now, but you must begin investigating immediately. Can I trust you with this mission, Professor Casper?" The professor says that they have successfully cultivated the bacteria they're searching for in the lab in the past few days. Falma's father is shocked, and she brings him the samples, saying, "I can't believe that this tiny organism could be capable of producing the cure." Everyone is amazed. Falma's father says, "You're excellent, Professor Casper. Starting today, I'll allocate a major budget for you and your research alone." He then tells all the senior professors that everyone will focus all their efforts on producing this new treatment from the bacteria. Falma's father tells Professor Casper, "Each day that we succeed in creating the cure faster will allow us to save more people. Looks like we'll have to delay your retirement a bit longer, Professor Casper." She's thrilled. At that moment, a report from Mars reaches Falma's father. We return to Falma in the village, and he tells the village doctors that he's done everything he can for the patients, but unfortunately, some died before he could treat them. He then says that to completely eradicate the disease, he'll need the cooperation of all the villagers. He explains that the magical ice barrier he created accelerates the effectiveness of the medicine, so it's best if everyone stays inside the village for another 2 weeks. He tells them to quickly kill any rats or fleas that enter the village. Afterward, Falma leaves the village and begins his departure. Along the way, he sees a fire burning some goods, and he finds the temple leader holding the foolish merchants who spread the disease in the village through their trade. The crew begs Falma to let them go, insisting they didn't do anything except what was asked of them. Falma asks, "How many wagons of goods did you transport?" They tell him, 4 wagons. 2 were filled with textiles, 1 with spices, and 1 with animals. Falma asks, "What species of animals?" One of the crew responds, "Squirrels." Falma concludes that the squirrels must have been the carriers of the disease. He asks, "Anything else you need to tell me?" They respond, "Yes, the squirrels were white and strange, from the island of Panty." Falma remembers that Panty is the original source of the plague and discovers from the crew that something is suspicious. How could noble magical knights be traveling with commoners? Falma deduces that these magical knights were actually tasked with spreading the plague across the empire and merely used the foolish merchants as pawns to spread the disease. disease. Falma thinks to himself that this might be because they want to assassinate the queen again and that they could have been the reason she was infected with the Black Death before as well. Falma then gives the crew the cure and tells the temple team to hand the crew over to the government for punishment after they are treated. At this time, the Archduke is reporting to the queen on all the reports and the situation in Mars, as well as Falma's progress. The queen orders an increase in security and inspections and for the arrest of the crew that brought the disease into the country as soon as possible. The next morning, Lotte is distributing masks to everyone entering the capital and Pierre is examining samples from people entering the country as well, focusing especially on those coming through Gate 6, which faces Mars. Pierre discovers that this group is indeed infected and says they must be isolated and treated immediately. They rush to Gate 6, but suddenly, there's a magical attack on the gate. They quickly close the gate, but the magical knights still manage to break through with their magic. Pierre runs quickly to the tent where the cure is stored to protect it at any cost. Meanwhile, the knights enter the town with boxes containing the animals that are the source of the plague. As soon as one of the workers carrying the box collapses from exhaustion, one of the knights says, "Hold on a little longer, stay strong." Then, the knight opens the box in the middle of town, releasing the squirrels throughout the entire town. He creates a magical whirlwind to spread the squirrels everywhere in the town. Pierre realizes that these squirrels are the source of the infection in the town and tells the guards to sound the alarm, informing everyone that it's forbidden to touch or allow squirrels into their homes or any place. At that moment, a guard runs in quickly and informs the queen that sorcerer knights from Holland have attacked the town. The advisor asks the guard how many there are, and he responds with 5. They all are surprised at how few they are, and the queen downplays the situation, as she's still unaware of the whole issue with the squirrels causing the disease. The queen says, "Is this really the time for this? Can't we just crush them quickly with a small force and be done?" The Archduke responds, "Given the situation we're in, with the disease and the Dutch ship carrying the plague, we should consider that they might be a source of the infection." The queen agrees but adds, "I can't quite understand why Holland would do this. They've always been our ally, and they don't have any motive to send 5 sorcerer knights to launch a surprise attack on us. Even their former ruler just died, and we haven't received any word that our alliance has ended. Something strange is going on here." The Archduke then says, "It seems like whoever is behind this plague knows a great deal about medicine." The queen asks, "Are you suggesting someone specific is orchestrating all this?" The Archduke replies, "I've heard that 3 years ago, Holland dealt with an apothecary, and the methods and remedies he uses match those of a very sinister pharmacist he once knew." The palace's head doctor says, "You mean the one who was expelled from the University of Novalot for medicine?" The Archduke replies, "Yes, that's him. He was an outstanding and brilliant pharmacist, creating many new medicines. He was quite famous at the time, but he also conducted wicked experiments on humans. He was like a monster in his actions, with no sense of morality or humanity. Because of his evil deeds, he was captured by investigators, had his ability to use magic sealed, and was exiled as a commoner. Before his expulsion, he had used many prisoners of war in his experiments with toxins, and the poisons he made could spread like an epidemic. In short, he was creating deadly plagues." Everyone is shocked by this revelation, and the minister says to the queen, "If it's the same apothecary in Holland, then he might have had a hand in the death of Holland's former ruler." The queen asks the Archduke, "Who exactly is this person?" The Archduke answers, "He's my former colleague and friend, Camus de Sade. He's the one spirit I was supposed to put an end to." We then return to the battlefield in the town, where the sorcerer knights are still spreading squirrels everywhere, even dead ones. The town guards are shooting at them with guns, and the Empire's sorcerer knights are using magic against the Holland knights. A fierce battle ensues, but the Archbishop of the Empire, Commander Solomon, arrives and captures the enemy. The Holland knights are stunned at the highest-ranking Archbishop came personally to arrest them. Solomon uses magic to prevent the evil knights from using any further magic. At this point, Falma arrives in the town, assesses the situation, and wants to know how far the plague has spread. Falma finds that many people are infected and the flying squirrels are everywhere, spreading the disease. He decides to head straight for the gate but sees his father heading there as well and rushes over to him. His father greets him and asks about the situation in Mars. Falma replies that everything there is under control, as he left things in Eleanor's hands. But he adds that the situation here is much more concerning. Together, they proceed to where the knights are being held, where an Empire knight is interrogating a Holland knight, asking what their goal was in the attack. We learn that the Holland knights know nothing about the disease and are merely following orders without understanding the mastermind's true intent. One knight, bleeding from his mouth, says the man behind it is so powerful he could kill 1,000 people in an instant and that he's holding thousands more hostage. The knight also adds that it seems as though an evil spirit has possessed the man. The Archduke interrupts the conversation and asks, "Does this man have blue hair, a burn on his left cheek, and one eye?" The knight is shocked that the Archduke knows this and replies, "Yes, that's him." The Holland knights cry, saying, "We followed that evil man's orders, but now the people will be safe," and then they die. The Archduke instructs the Empire's guards to bury the knights, and Falma asks his father, "Do you know who is responsible for all of this?" The father, in his mind, thinks Camus de Sade, the heretical pharmacist with a sick mind, has now become an evil spirit. The city remains in a state of chaos, but then the bell stops ringing, and everyone begins to feel a sense of relief. Latte is especially happy and tells Cedric she's going back to the pharmacy. Cedric tries to stop her, but she's already running off. At that moment, Falma tells his father that he's returning to the pharmacy to prepare the medicines they'll need for the next phase. But he suddenly feels a sense of foreboding. Using his holy eye, Falma sees the evil man watching from afar, surrounded by a dark aura. Falma is confused and asks his father, "What's wrong?" He sprints off, shouting, "I must get back to the pharmacy immediately." His father understands what's happening and orders the guards to keep ringing the bell. He realizes that Camus is in the city. At the same time, Latte is running toward the pharmacy, with Cedric chasing after her to make sure she's safe. The cursed Camus stands on the pharmacy's roof, watching the results of his experiment, observing Latte and Cedric from a distance. When Latte arrives at the pharmacy, she notices the windows are open and assumes Falma is inside. Just as the bell starts ringing again, Latte and Cedric decide to go inside the pharmacy, hoping to wait out the situation. Cedric, sensing something is wrong, says, "Wait, let me check first." But Latte runs ahead. Latte rushes upstairs to Falma's office but is shocked to find it empty. She begins to worry and wonders if she's imagining things. At that moment, Cedric arrives and, relieved to find Latte, says, "Didn't I tell you to wait for me?" Suddenly, Cedric collapses, revealing that the wicked Camus has stabbed him in the back. Camus then approaches Latte and she is stunned when she sees him. At this point, Falma arrives at the pharmacy, exhausted from running. He surveys the scene using his holy eye and sees the evil spirit inside his lab. His father arrives shortly after and they both enter the pharmacy, checking the surroundings. They discover that the cursed Camus has also stabbed Latte, and he's standing in the lab. Falma's father tells him, "I'll keep this wretch busy while you treat them quickly." Falma agrees, and his father attacks Camus. He says, "It's been a long time, Camus." Camus replies, "You've come to interfere with my work again? That's foolish of you. Have you forgotten that everyone dies in the end?" We see that half of Camus' face has become a skeleton due to the dark curse. The father attacks him again. Meanwhile, Falma examines Cedric and Latte, discovering that they've been poisoned by Camus. He realizes that if he doesn't identify the toxin quickly, their lives will be in grave danger. The battle between the father and Camus continues, but the evil man proves to be extremely powerful, overwhelming Falma's father. At the same time, Falma is working hard to identify and remove the poisons one by one. Camus, who is stronger than Falma's father, is beating him down and grabs a potion from the shelf, heading toward Falma. Camus continues to mutter his nonsensical ramblings, clearly impressed by Falma's lab. He attempts to poison Latte and Cedric again with a new toxin, but Falma neutralizes it before he can even use it, much to Camus' surprise. Falma decides to put an end to this villain once and for all. He charges at Camus and strikes him, with Camus exclaiming, "How are you this powerful? How can you not understand or appreciate my pursuit of the world's ultimate truth?" Camus continues to ramble, attacking Falma with more poisons, but Falma nullifies them all. He continues his assault on the villain until he eliminates him entirely, vanishing him from existence in a legendary, awe-inspiring moment that restores peace to the world. Afterward, Cedric, Latte, and Falma's father check on Falma, with Latte crying tears of joy, saying, "Welcome back." The bell stops ringing and everything returns to normal. 2 months later, the Queen holds a celebration to mark the end of the Black Death Plague and the return of peace. The entire city joins in the festivities, the pharmacy reopens, and Falma and his team are filled with happiness. They are joined by old Jean, Pierre, and Commander Solomon, and Latte joyfully welcomes them all as things finally return to normal.